SciBookChat. 2 weeks ago we went on a little whirlwind trip of the bookstore, and I talked about how there are different types of books about science. And today I want to talk a bit about books about people. So books about scientists or books that are related to science, but again more focused on what people are doing rather than the science itself. So I will very quickly show you the books and give you a short little summary about what they're about, and then you can see how they're similar and different. This book, Geek Nation by Angela Saini, is about scientists in India. Angela's father was, I think, a chemist in India before she was born, and she went back from the UK to India to sort of learn about the culture of science in India. So she talked to a lot of people there, and we get an impression of the role that science and engineering has in this country. And this whole book is very much about that. But although she talks about what certain scientists are working on, I don't really remember that, and that's not the main message of the book. The main message is how India as a country is interested in science. Then this next book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, you might have heard of this because it's won quite a lot of awards a couple of years ago. It's a book that talks about how medical practice used to work in, I think, the 1950s. And it's very much a book about race relations in America over the past couple of decades. And it tells a very personal story of this one black family in the US, the Lacks family. In particular about Henrietta Lacks, who died of cancer in 1951. Even though this book is very much about this family, it also is tied in very closely to how cell biologists and molecular biologists are still working today. I used to work in a cell biology lab, and all cell biology labs around the world that are working on figuring out mammalian cells, so including human cells. The way that's done is often with cells growing in a little petri dish, but one of the popular cell lines in use is a human cancer cell line called HeLa. And HeLa cells are everywhere, and lots of people have worked with this. And it's called HeLa because it's named after Henrietta Lacks. She was the woman who had the cancer that was then turned into this human cancer cell line. So anyone working with HeLa cells today is working with a little bit of DNA from this woman, Henrietta Lacks. And the book is about, well, the family had no idea that this was happening. It's tied into science, but it's a very personal story about a family. And the last book is How the Hippies Saved Physics. Of the 3 books I've shown, this one has the most science in it. This is the most a book about science. I read this within the past year, and I remember the stories about the scientists, about the hippies, but I don't remember the actual physics that was talked about in the book. And again, I don't think that that was the important part of this book. Maybe it is to some people, but to me what was really interesting about this book is the history of the field of physics. Physics, I've always found, like, I come from a background of biology and chemistry, and I've always found physicists different, and I could never quite explain why. But yeah, this book explains quite a lot of that. So there was, in the 1970s, a group of hippies that was working on, it was called the Fundamental Physics Group, and physics is spelled with an F and a K. And it was, of course, in Berkeley, California, because hippies. And yeah, this book tells their story and how they sort of influenced physics up until this day. Some of them are still working in physics. So you get a really good overview of what one particular field of science has been doing, and maybe what sets them apart from other fields. But again, I didn't really learn that much science from it, and I don't think that that's important. So I actually prefer books about, like, books like this, books that are about scientists, over books that are more specifically about science itself. And like when I'm doing science writing myself, I prefer to write about scientists and the scientific community rather than writing those explainer pieces where I'm just saying this is how this works and this is how that works. I think it's also interesting to do that because you get to learn science, you get to learn a bit more about that, but I used to really like that, and then I just sort of grew into preferring to read and write about the people that are doing science, or the people for whom scientific discoveries are very important. So yeah, this was just me talking about the kind of books that I like, but what kind of science books do you like? Do you like reading about people, or do you like learning more about the science itself, and what kind of science do you like? So leave a comment below, and I'll be back in 2 weeks with another video. Why is my hair so weird? I can't fix this because it's not a mirror. It's